Good morning. Good Monday morning. This is Casey July from the July studio, and I'm struggling this morning because I woke up a little bit late, and I'm trying to decide between the roto light, and the natural light, which is pretty good, and but we're here, got some coffee, and so let's get started. Once again, disclaimer, I work from home most of the time. I do have animals. I do have things that happen outside that are out of my control. So I'm really sorry about those things. If they disturb you, you're just going to have to deal like with the trash truck and stuff like that. So, but just give you a heads up before we get started. Okay, so the last couple of videos I've been making, and I've been vlogging, and I've been talking about how I'm confused. How I kind of got to this place in my life and I'm not really sure what happened. I'm not really sure how I got here. And I've got the whole hamster wheel going on where I'm working really, really hard and I'm not getting any results. So, one of the things I keep saying is that I got to figure this out. I got to figure this out. I got to figure this out. And I hope that I'm conveying to you that even though I'm paying attention and I'm looking back and I'm thinking about things that happened to me in the past and people that came into my life and things that happened, what I'm doing is thinking about what I'm going to do. How am I going to fix this? How am I going to get my life back in order? How am I going to kind of reboot my life? And I am fully aware that I have to do this. I can't ask anybody else to do this for me. I can't expect anybody else to do this for me. But I was just getting overwhelmed. I was getting overwhelmed by all of these things that everybody was telling me I was supposed to be doing. And I'm just using this time with you to kind of reorganize my thoughts and kind of like make a to-do list in a way of what I've got to do and what I've got to go forward with. And I'm just kind of hoping, because I've also expressed that I have other people that are my age and other people that I know that are artistic or other people that I know that are in similar situations and they're going through similar things at this point in their life. And if I can help someone else not feel so alone and so confused like I am, even for just for a few minutes in a video, then that means that I've done something good. And maybe in the process, I'll be able to figure some stuff out for myself too. So, here's the deal. I'm gonna back up some more. One of the things, and I have notes, one of the things that people continuously say to me is, you should open a store. This is frustrating for me for two reasons. Number one, because I have had a store and because I have an online store that I've had for years. And number two is because I have spent so much money advertising. I have spent so much time on social media and sending emails and messaging people and writing people. And so if someone even remotely knows me in person or they even remotely follow me on social media and their advice to me is you should open a store, then that means that they have never paid any attention to my life. That means that I have gotten this far and worked this hard, and in the end it really didn't matter because people don't know who I am. They don't know what I do. They think they know who I am and what I do, but they don't really. So, okay, so here's how it all started. I got pregnant with my first child. And I was married to a man who's in the military, and we were very young, and I begged him for a cheap sewing machine. And my mom had always sewn, and I was always creative, and where I was in my life, I pretty much had nowhere to go, nothing to do, no money, and pregnant. So he agreed to buy me a cheap sewing machine, and I started making my maternity clothes. After my daughter was born, my first child was born, I had a yard sale. I had 2 babies in a row. I had a yard sale, and a woman bought some of my corduroy jumpers. And she bought a couple of little onesie type dresses that I had made that I went ahead and sold. And she came back and she was like, my daughter wants more of those corduroy jumpers. And I was like, okay, I can make more. And she's like, I thought they were from like Sears or J.C. Penney's or something, and they didn't have any tags in them. And I was like, no, I made them. So that was pretty much the beginning of me sewing for money. And it just kind of grew from there. As my children got older and I was making children's clothes and I was selling the secondhand clothes because they'd been worn, I was actually taking them to consignment shops that only took name brand clothes. And my clothes were so well made that they would accept my clothes for consignment. At that time, they didn't have tags in them or anything. So I started calling myself Dreamstress. I had a cousin who said, you're not a seamstress, you're a dreamstress. I started sewing. And so technically, and this goes back to something that pisses me off. When someone says, oh, when you've been in business a little bit longer, you'll understand. I've been selling my clothes for about 16 years. So there's one point of the reason why I'm confused. I called myself Dreamstress. I started embroidering Dreamstress into the clothes. I started selling children's clothes. I opened a shop on Etsy in 2009. Not last year, not the year before, 2009. And for a while there, I was sending clothes all over the United States. I had some pieces go to the UK. I had some pieces go to London. I had some pieces go to Asia. And I was not doing too bad. I was selling my clothes, really like my children's clothing, a couple of $100 a month. And I will say that during some of this time, I'm a single mom. During some of this time, I'm going through separation. During some of this time, I'm working 3 jobs. During some of this time, I'm going to college. During some of this time, I had full custody of my kids this whole time. So, when someone says, when you've been in business a little bit longer, you'll understand, well, I've had an Etsy since 2009. A couple of years ago, I opened a small store in Branson. I was in an artisan shop. I had foot traffic through my shop every day. I had things happening. I was in Branson in a tourist area. A year. And so when someone's like, you should open a store. Okay, I had a store for a year in Branson. There's where more of my confusion comes in. So, what I break this down to, and this is the part where it goes back to the family part. When I was a single mom, when I had 4 kids at home, when I was struggling, my family didn't buy clothes from me. My family, people didn't get married and get their wedding dress from me. My friends, I have a handful of people that have supported me from the very beginning. I've done some costuming for theaters. I've done some costuming for theme parks. My work's gone to Europe. But when I was at home sewing, I had almost no traffic from my friends and family. When I have an Etsy, I have almost no traffic from my friends and family. When I had a store, I had almost no traffic from my friends and family. I rebooted and redid my business, crap, my brain just went blank. I redid my, for my business to see if I couldn't get a small loan. I opened a GoFundMe. I was going to try to turn the July studio into a studio where people could come in and sew and buy fabric and have a community-based type place. People could come in for steampunk, cosplay. Started a GoFundMe. I had like 1 or 2 very supportive people donate. I'm talking like $100. That's where my confusion comes in. I had a t-shirt campaign, had a handful of people that I can count on to buy my t-shirts. None of my family, and I'm talking my mom, my dad, my brother, no one in my family gives a shit about my business. This is where my confusion comes in. I have family members who are financially stable, who want to give me advice. Opening a store means I have to have liquid income. I have to have a business license. I have to have zoning licenses. I have to pay my rent. I have to pay my utilities. I have to pay taxes. This is where my confusion comes in. I have taken, people are like, you have a business plan? Yeah, I have pretty much had a business plan every year for 16 years. Looking at my notes, okay. And another thing is people say, well, you gotta work harder. When I was in my store and I was in an artisan store, we went in and worked so people could watch us. I would go in and sew. I would go in and embroidery. I would go in and I would have little mini classes. You had to sign in and out. Sometimes I had 40 to 50 hours a week on my log, which means I was working. I was at the facility signed in, at the place signed in, sometimes up to 50 hours a week for a year. And people say, you gotta work harder. This is where my confusion comes in. This is why I'm confused. If I have a store and in 1 year, like 5 people that I know come into my store, how does that make me a failure? How does that make me a failure? Because this is what I'm dealing with. If I have an Etsy store and I have other people trafficking my store and I have like 2 family members in like 6 years even look at my Etsy store. If I have people getting married, I have people having babies, I have people going on vacation, having portraits made, I have people every day in my life who virtually have ignored my small business for 16 years. And then when I'm struggling and when I'm trying to figure things out, they want to give me advice like, you should open a store. I want to say again, I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. It's not hatefulness. It's confusion. I'm confused. I've spent thousands of dollars on advertising. I've spent hundreds of dollars on business cards. I have done charity work. I have gone to conventions. I have worked with steampunk people one-on-one. I have traveled a little bit. I've done fashion shows. Explain to me. I did a charity event that was pretty big here in Branson, and I had people around me that had like 20, 30 people there, and I had like 5 people there. It was one of the pivotal moments in my life, and no one cared. No one cared. I'm not exactly sure what the mindset is there. That Casey July doesn't need any help. She doesn't need anyone to be there for her. She doesn't need an income. She doesn't need money to put food on the table. I'm not exactly sure what the mindset is there. But the conclusion I've come to, and this is where I'm going to close for today, I suck at asking for help. I want to do things right the first time. I want to do things perfect the first time. I don't want to have to ask for help. I don't want to be told twice. And I'm going to tell you something. These are my dad's words. My dad used to say, you shouldn't have to be told twice. My dad used to say, do it right the first time. My dad used to say, don't ask for help unless you need help because you should know how to do this. And I have taken that and I've transposed that into my business. And I'm not a sports person. I never saw myself as competitive until recently. I started realizing that that's where my personal competitive edge comes in. So